Pretty certain that you're a serial killer now. Hello, friends! You may have noticed that my hair is different and I have a new camera. And now we can get on with the video. Okay, hold on. Oh, let's just hide those. My name's River, and today I'm going to tell you a story about how creepy the internet can be because you can accidentally talk to someone that sounds like a serial killer. And this is the story of Blood Guy. You may have noticed that I spelled that B-L-U-D and not B-L-O-O-D. And that is because today I'm letting you in on a series of inside jokes, and blood is like spelled like that because it sounds like blood, like that one video from like, okay, I'll just put it here, where the kid's just screaming like blood, blood. And this guy was practically screaming the same thing. So just for some background, when I first started Instagram, it was before there was any direct messages. And I had just started an art Instagram account to advertise my comics once I started making them. At the beginning of making an Instagram account that you're using for the purposes of like sharing your artwork, you have to talk to everyone who comments and hashtag with everything. So I was hashtagging like horror and all of this stuff for comics because my first comic is a horror comic. Apparently this guy had found it using that horror hashtag, or so I'd presume, because he immediately started talking about horror and that he's interested in horror, wanted a friend to talk to that knew about horror. Do you hear my dog snoring? I'm sorry if you hear my dog snoring. Anyways, he was like, I really wanted to talk to someone that knows about horror or is interested in it. Can I message you on Kik? And for those of you who don't know, Kik is an instant messaging app, and all it has basically is like your username and whatever photo you put up. I don't think you really have to give any other information at all, so it's kind of even less information than Instagram, actually, which ends up being a huge relief at the end of the story. Someone else had already convinced me to make a Kik. I don't have a Kik. No one asked me for that again. I'm done with that app. I started messaging him on there, and at first it was normal. I think he was like your average like fuckboy because he kept telling me about his girlfriend that he just broke up with and trying to hit on me, but I was not having it. And people who know me just pretty much learn early they can't really mess with. I'm not gonna tolerate that stuff. He was just complaining to me, and I don't know if that was some type of like, he was whatever. This guy was doing some weird stuff, and I wasn't really even replying that much. I was just replying occasionally, but eventually it got to be later in the night, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but people tend to say things like that they're thinking deeply as the later the night goes on. For him, whatever time zone he was in, it was like slightly later than mine. He asked me where I lived, but I was like, oh, I live in California. Like, good luck finding who I am there. There's like millions of people in this state. And he only really knew like my first name at the time, and I've seen other people with the same exact name as my dead name, is what I call it. Yeah, so this guy just practically starts spilling his guts. And that gore reference is not an accident. He started talking about horror and why he likes it. He actually asked me a question. He said, what do you like about horror movies? And I was like, I don't really watch that many horror movies. I read horror comics, like web comics and some TV shows that are like psychological horror, but I don't really like all of this American horror sometimes. Like, I like other countries' horror, but sometimes... Oh my god, what was that? That scared me. Whew, okay. Can't do anything scary while talking about Blood Guy. My dog, who's partially deaf, heard that. Okay, I just had to pet her, now she's okay. Oh, holy mother and balls. Okay. I was saying I don't always like American horror because some of it can be very stereotypical and cringy. Like, people don't really tend to come up with their own original ideas for movies these days. It's always like some white character running away from some supernatural thing and like practically leading themselves into it. I don't know, it's dumb. But there are good things that I think are technically horror that aren't like that. and they tend to be TV shows and comics. Anyway, this guy was obsessed with like all of the gory stuff, and he started naming them off, and I was like, okay, alright, people like that. It's just like horror movies, like harmless still. Until this guy said something in particular. He said the sentence to me,
"Yeah, I really like seeing blood."
And so I asked him, oh, well, what do you like about it? Because I was figuring he was going to say something about like certain special effects, like it could be totally cheesy, like in Kill Bill, not that that's a horror movie, but I don't know, it could be really realistic, like some of this old school gory stuff, and people do a really good job with special effects, and it can be interesting to think about how they did it and learn about how they did it. But what he said next earned him his crown of Blood Guy. And I have the screenshot. What do you like about it? I asked.
"I love seeing blood. The way it splatters, the way it sprays and gets smeared, the way it forms puddles and seeing psychotics kill others, because in a way, I'm sort of crazy too, and..."
Sorry if that was weird. Not weird at all. Just slightly horrifying, maybe. Pretty certain that you're a serial killer now. Let's just say he was acting like a serial killer. I treated him like a serial killer, and that you would want to respond neutrally. Maybe not give away that you're judging them in some way so that they could come after you and target you. At least that's what I thought in the heat of the moment. Because I was sitting on my bed with my mouth open, staring at my screen like, this person likes watching people die. So let's just say this person had just walked up to me like in a cafe or something. We were acquaintances, we had shared interests in common about horror movies, somehow we knew that. I hardly know this person, and yet they come up to me and tell me,
"I enjoy seeing people die."
Naturally, an average person might run away screaming, but I calculated my response, tried to be as neutral as possible, and said, that's okay, because he just said sorry if that was too weird. And it was not okay, and I would say weird is not the right word to describe that. Then I said the most socially awkward thing possible. Yeah, it's definitely different to see. That's not suspicious at all. I mean, sure, it's neutral, but I mean... And then this guy started kind of trying to back himself up, like, you could see him backpedaling and trying to seem not as creepy, but it was over at this point. I already knew, I knew how he felt about murdering people, at least in movies, but if you're gonna like it that much to describe it in that way, I'm pretty sure there's something else going on. And he says, it's funny though, I like all that stuff, but when it comes down to it, I can't even hurt a fly. I totally believe you. Gonna run away now. So I say, maybe that's why you like it. Like some dramatic irony, ha ha. If you had to make a choice, that's probably the best option to be like, though. Casually just sending a suggestion in there, maybe not to be a murderer. I honestly don't remember what happened after that. I think I made up some excuse to leave, like, oh, I have to go to bed now, it's late. Bye. You know what, maybe kids, you should follow my example, because if you run into a creepy person on the internet and you don't immediately block them and you don't want them to come after you and, like, form a lasting hate about you, you can just casually diffuse the situation, stop responding, just only respond like a day or two after they message you after that, eventually just never respond again, and they'll forget about you, and then you can block them on everywhere you know. Pretty sure I need to make something about internet safety, because it scares me that there's just kids out there messaging people and then this is how it can turn out. I would love to hear some stories if you've had anyone like this, or if you know a friend who has. Send me their way, leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please hit subscribe and press that bell button so you get notifications next time I make a video, and I will see you soon. I hope you're having a great day and that there's not too much blood involved. Alright, goodbye. drips, the way it splatters, the way it pops.